Okay, take two. Welcome to Critical Weight Theory, where today I'm going to look at the weird, eerie, and downright fascinating, world of horror again. We're looking at the dark corner of cinema, so to speak. And specifically, we're looking at a lesser known Frankenstein film, one that might just be more interesting than you think, despite all the negative critiques that people have mustered up about it, over the years. I'm talking about 1958's Frankenstein 1970, starring the legendary Boris Karloff, who is, for many people, the definitive Frankenstein's monster. Despite its futuristic sounding title, this movie isn't quite the sci fi spectacle you might expect. Instead, it's actually more of a self aware meta commentary on the Frankenstein legacy itself. And if that sounds ahead of its time, well, it kind of was. So let's dig in and, you know, see what's good about this movie. What's Frankenstein 1970 all about? The film follows Baron Victor von Frankenstein, or Frankenstein if you use the pronunciation from Young Frankenstein. It's the character played by none other than Boris Karloff. So this time, Karloff isn't playing the creature, he's the mad scientist. The Baron is now aging, disfigured, and in desperate need of funding. You know, why does that sound familiar? I think a lot of people have been in a rut like that and they've needed to sell out in some way. So, to get the money he wants or needs, he allows a television crew to film a documentary about his infamous family history. Or maybe they're shooting a horror movie or something like that. I don't actually remember exactly what kind of story they're shooting. You know, this is a Frankenstein movie, though, and that means there's a dark ulterior motive at play. The Baron secretly uses the film crew's money to continue his own experiments, and that includes creating a new creature powered by nuclear energy. But I can't speak. I almost said creature instead of creature. Uh, this is obviously a top notch podcast. But anyway, if that nuclear powered monster sounds like something out of Ed Wood's Bride of the Monster, with its infamous talk of atomic bombs, you know, and a lot of space alien stuff. Well, you're not far off. This movie is in a similar vein. It is about a mad scientist. Although I don't think there are any space aliens in this movie or anything like that. But it does have some elements of an Ed Wood style movie. As Frankenstein assembles his new monster, things take a gruesome turn. He starts harvesting body parts from the unsuspecting film crew because hell yeah, that's awesome. You want to do that kind of stuff. It's it's a way to learn, that's how you do science. you you, you harvest body parts from unsuspecting people. The horror escalates as you might imagine. The monster rises, and as always, the price of playing God proves to be steep. You know, that's that's why you don't harvest body parts from unsuspecting film crews. It's a naughty thing to do, but it's a cool thing to do, so people do it anyway. So, what makes Frankenstein 1970 unique? Well, it's some of the standout themes. There's a meta commentary on Frankenstein lore that I mentioned earlier. One of the most fascinating things about the film is its self awareness. Boris Karloff, the man who terrified audiences as the original Frankenstein's monster in the 1930s, is, of course, playing the scientist now. So it's like It's like a way to add a new, I guess, spin on things. It's a full circle moment, almost like the Frankenstein story itself. It's a never ending cycle of creation and destruction. You've also got the Cold War paranoia element here. Like many 1950s horror and sci fi films, Frankenstein 1970 taps into atomic age fears. The Baron's new creation is powered by nuclear energy, reflecting the anxieties of the era. It's a chilling nod to the moral debates surrounding nuclear power because, nuclear power could kill us all or whatever, and nuclear holocaust. That's such a cool combination of words, by the way. Like those two words sound right together. That might be one of the reasons humanity is trying to bring that about, because the term nuclear holocaust, it sounds badass. Like it sounds like something that a metal band would have as either their name or the title of one of their albums or something like that. The other theme that should be mentioned is the gothic horror meets sci-fi thing, which of course the original Frankenstein story had. But this movie keeps that ball rolling. The movie straddles the line between classic gothic horror and modern science fiction by getting more into the nuclear angle. It has the eerie castles and the scientist you'd expect, but it also introduces the technological fears of the time. Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, I don't think there's as much emphasis on castles as there could be, you know, but and it doesn't really have the same feel as the original Frankenstein movie or whatever, or a lot of the classic gothic horror stuff. But it tries. It tries. It's almost a precursor to the blend of old and new that we see in pop culture today, like Stranger Things or any number of 1980s callbacks where nostalgia and modern horror collide. Although this was, of course, uh, a different approach because it's having the nuclear fears tied in with the old Frankenstein story. So it's like a precursor in a way to these modern horror callbacks. So when Frankenstein 1970 was released, critics had mixed feelings. I mean, why wouldn't they? That's what they do. Karloff's performance was praised though. He brings a gravitas to the role that few could match. But the film's budget limitations and slow pacing were seen as weak points. And, I happen to agree that the pacing could be better in this movie. I'm not sure about the other stars in this movie. It has Tom Duggan and Jaina Lund, whose work I'm not familiar with. And, to be honest, the movie is seen as a bit of a clunker. But that being said, it has gained some appreciation over time. If you're a Frankenstein completist, this is one you'll want to check out. And, well, you probably have seen it already if you're so dedicated to that, overall franchise. But what the hell? Who knows? Maybe somehow this didn't make it onto your radar or whatever. Well, now you can add it. And if you're someone who enjoys meta horror like Scream, The Blair Witch Project, or any film that plays with its own mythology, Frankenstein 1970 might deserve a watch. I can't say you're guaranteed to love it, but even if it doesn't knock your socks off, you might want to give it a try. So, is Frankenstein 1970 a forgotten masterpiece? Well, probably not. I didn't find it to be a masterpiece myself, but it is sort of an interesting overlooked entry in the Frankenstein saga. It's a film that reflects on its own legacy while tapping into the fears of the time. And for Boris Karloff fans, I almost called him Boris. For Boris Karloff fans, it's a must see. It's his last Frankenstein related role. So that's another reason you might want to check it out. It's a, you know, it's an actor who had iconic contributions to the horror genre. So you might owe it to yourself and in sort of a grand cosmic sense to Boris Karloff to check it out. So that's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed what I discussed, or even if you didn't, you can still subscribe and leave a review. You can note all the places where I messed up, and there definitely were some of those. But you can just follow this podcast if you're so inclined. And have you seen Frankenstein 1970? You can let me know what you think. So until next time, stay spooky and, keep rocking in the free world and avoid nuclear contamination because it will make parts of your body rot and fall off. That's something you can be pretty sure of. So don't go near the nuclear catastrophes that that these old movies warned us about. Stay clear of them. Um, Also, stop, drop, and roll if there's a nuclear fireball that goes off somewhere. Stop, drop, and roll. Hide under your desk. Maybe shield yourself with a newspaper, and you'll you'll possibly fare better that way. So, all right, have a fantastic day.